Imagine for a moment that every history lesson you've ever sat through was a crafted deception, an elaborate cover story. What if the order of our past is completely upside down? What if humanity didn't climb from cavemen to modern engineers, but instead collapsed from unimaginable heights into the world we know today? Over the next 17 minutes, we'll follow the traces in stone, in sepia-toned photographs, in buried city streets, and impossibly precise monuments, all pointing to a lost global civilization. We'll ask why the Great Pyramid encodes Earth's dimensions, why 200-ton stones at Sacsayhuaman fit like puzzle pieces, and why every World's Fair seems to unveil pre-existing marvels only to tear them down. Welcome to the evidence they don't want you to see. So if you like stories like this, like and subscribe for more. What if our origin story is backwards? We're told cavemen learned farming, then slowly devised masonry, then built the pyramids, and then centuries later perfected steel-framed skyscrapers. But look again, the Great Pyramid of Giza, over 2 million blocks, some 80 tons each, cut and aligned to true north within fractions of a degree. Its passages encode phi, the speed of light. Yet we're told people fresh from copper chisels and wooden rollers accomplished this a little past 10,000 years ago. Does that timeline add up, or does it collapse under its own contradictions? Across continents, we find the same pattern. At Peru's Sacsayhuaman, polygons of stone up to 200 tons fit so snugly that mortar would have been superfluous. The Inca layer above is impressive, yet rougher, smaller, less exact. In Lebanon, the Baalbek Trilithon, 3 stones of around 800 tons each, sit beneath Roman columns built later. In Egypt, the Sphinx and Valley Temple use massive limestone blocks. Dynastic tombs above them employ far tinier stones, and the precision declines. If history marched upward, we'd see a climb from crude to refined. Instead, we see the pinnacle first, then gradual decay. Our textbooks say Stone Age, Bronze Age, Iron Age, but the real sequence seems to be megalithic perfection, then fractured maintenance, then incremental rediscovery. What if our ancestors inherited the ruins of a global empire rather than inventing masonry for the first time? Turn next to the late 1800s. Boston's ornate courthouses, New York's cathedrals, Chicago's City Hall, San Francisco's elaborate homes. We're told fledgling nations of farmers and artisans using horses and hand tools threw up these masterpieces in months or years. The 1893 Chicago World's Fair, over 200 grand buildings, canals, fountains, sculpture, built in under 3 years on manual labor. Yet 5,000 workers at 10 hours a day for 30 months yields only 9 million man-hours, or about 45,000 per building. Try carving every keystone and sculptural relief, laying mosaic floors of millions of tiles, shaping granite columns by hand. Nothing matches the ancient cathedrals that took centuries. The math fails. History claims these marvels were erected and then immediately dismantled as temporary. But period photographs show partial collapses, fire damage, trees growing through. Forgives? Was it planned demolition or evidence of age? And why repeat this pattern at every world's exposition? Paris 89, Buffalo 01, St. Louis 04, San Francisco 15, spectacular cities rising, and then vanishing? Perhaps these were never built for the fairs, but revealed from beneath the earth, then erased to hide their origins. Examine 19th century city streets, windows half buried, doors opening below today's pavement. Officially, sidewalks and roadbeds rose over time. Yet in Philadelphia, Boston, London, Kolkata, Such burial is uniform: 10, 12, 15 feet of soil in mere decades. Cities under active development wouldn't bury entire first floors. Something cataclysmic must have dumped that sediment. A great mud flood, tsunami, or dust storm that buried existing structures, later dug out by workers labeled construction crews, when in fact they were archaeologists by another name. Global architecture tells the same story. Neoclassical facades in New York, Melbourne, Buenos Aires, St. Petersburg share identical proportions and ornament, far too consistent for independent revivals. St. Petersburg's Winter Palace, built 1754-1762, boasts 1,500 rooms, 1,186 doors, 1,945 windows, and 117 staircases, all ornamented by master craftsmen. Yet Russia was still feudal then. Buenos Aires transforms from sleepy colonial outpost to Paris of the South, practically overnight in the late 1800s, every block matching Europe's grand boulevards. Kolkata's Victoria Memorial, 1906-1921, mirrors London's stately homes, down to the smallest detail. How did these disparate cities, separated by oceans and politics, produce identical designs without instant global communication? It only makes sense if they inherited a shared architectural template. Furniture, metalwork, glassware, porcelain, and hand-carved furnishings from the 1800s reveal artisanship that supposedly died with industrialization. Factories were meant to replace hand skills, yet the era's everyday objects exhibit mastery requiring years of training. Could this be the last echo of an older tradition, passed on by survivors of a recent collapse? Then the 20th century arrives and sweeps away ornament. Steel and glass boxes replace stonework. Power tools don't revive carving. The skills are gone. Modern contractors admit they can't match 19th century craftsmanship. Our progress narrative stumbles. With electricity and engines, we should build better, not simpler. Instead, we've lost nuance in exchange for speed and cost-cutting. Population data compounds the mystery. San Francisco surges from a few thousand to hundreds of thousands mid-19th century. Yet photos from the 1850s show a mature cityscape of multiple-story stone and brick. Chicago suffers the Great Fire of 1871, then immediately rebuilds embellished structures. Census records list waves of unskilled immigrants, yet there are no records of tens of thousands of master masons, sculptors, plasterers, and mosaicists needed to create the documented artistry. Strategic unsolved puzzles multiply. Now, set the numbers in motion. Between 1800 and 1900, world population rose from 1 billion to 1.6 billion. Railroads, telegraph lines, canals, factories, and cities, all constructed by muscle power and horse-drawn carts. In the United States, population leapt from 5.3 million to 76 million, while tens of thousands of towns sprouted courthouses, churches, schools, hundreds of ornate commercial buildings, and thousands of homes. Brickmaking alone would require 50 billion bricks for just a fraction of the construction. Over 250 centuries of labor for a single mason. There weren't enough workers or time. The math is impossible. If these structures weren't built, then when? Consider the photographic record. Factories churned out cameras by the hundreds of thousands in the 1850s, yet we have astonishingly few images of anything but the completed product. Almost no shots of scaffolding alive with labor, cranes lifting stones, or draftsmen on site. Instead, we see completed palaces, excavation crews unearthing buried foundations, demolition crews peeling away walls. The story reads like recovery, not creation. Geology weighs in, too. Limestone blocks in the Sphinx show water erosion patterns inconsistent with 4 millennia of desert aridity. and salt deposits speak of flooding. Erosion that should take thousands of years appears to be recent. Similar signs dot ruins in Turkey, Bolivia, and Lebanon. Foundation stones shifted by seismic shocks, interlocking blocks knocked out of place. Flood myths from every culture, from Sumer's epic to Greek lore, Hindu yugas to Native American legends, tell of global deluges that wiped out former worlds. Why would so many societies invent similar cataclysms unless they all lived through one? Historical climate records record the year without a summer, after Mount Tambora's 1815 eruption, unusual cold spells, crop failures, the Great Dark Day of New England in 1780, red skies in 1883 after Krakatoa. Tree rings show growth gaps in the early 19th century, all signs of planetary upheaval. Soil cores reveal uniform layers of ash and fine sediment, dated to the same period on every continent, evidence of an event so vast it blanketed the globe. What if around 1811, 1816, a cosmic disruption, an airburst, a massive volcanic chain reaction or impact, triggered earthquakes, tsunamis, mud floods, and an impact winter, cities buried under debris, infrastructure crippled, population decimated. Survivors dug out their former homes, salvaged stones and columns, patched and repurposed. Those excavations became the construction projects of the 19th century, as photographs suggest. Artisans passing on fading skills carved the last flourishes, then died, taking secrets to their graves. The Industrial Revolution wasn't invention, but rediscovery of lost knowledge. Imagine a global civilization that just centuries ago spanned every continent, unified by shared design language, advanced surveying, precise masonry, underground water systems, and astronomically aligned monuments. One that encoded its wisdom in stone to survive catastrophe. Then, in a few years, it collapsed, sank beneath mud, ash, and flood. A handful of survivors watched their world vanish and had to relearn everything from scratch. By the late 1800s, new ruling classes needed a narrative that justified their power. We built all this ourselves. See how far we've come. They staged world's fairs to display borrowed palaces, then tore them down to hide their true age. They rewrote textbooks, erased antecedents, stamped primitive origins on common stones. Standardized education cemented the lie, progress from caveman to computer. But the scars remain. They're in buried windows and doorways, in monuments that baffle modern engineers, in global stylistic echoes, in the mathematical impossibilities of our recorded timeline. If this alternative history is correct, the questions multiply. What genius did we lose? What technologies vanished overnight? What raw power did those megalith builders command? And if civilizations fall that quickly, are we next? Recovering the truth means re-examining dating methods, retesting mortar and tool marks, rereading every photograph from the 19th century as a potential excavation record. It means applying logistics analysis to every construction miracle of the past and demanding accountability for the missing labor and the vanished knowledge. It means listening to flood legends as more than myths and questioning why so many share the same core story. If we embrace this new narrative, history isn't a neat ladder from huts to high rises, but a cycle of creation, collapse, and rebirth. We are not the apex of human achievement, but one generation in a pattern of rise and fall. We inherit the ruins of a civilization that may have been far more advanced than we ever will be. And hidden in those ruins could lie the key to rebuilding in balance with the planet, if we can only see them for what they are. You've seen the buried first floors, the impossible block fits, the uniform aesthetics, the photographic anomalies, the abrupt shifts in climate and culture. You've walked city streets that conceal layers of sediment and history beneath their pavement. You've held artifacts that point to artisanal mastery stolen by time and catastrophe. Now the choice is yours. Accept the polished cover story or dig deeper. Question everything. Follow the numbers and the stones and reclaim the true past of humankind. If you'd like more stories like these, please like and subscribe.